Hey everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Today we're taking a look at the Kizer Genie, and we're still also getting used to the new filming set. I'm not sure I like how many shadows there are. That's something I've gone through great lengths to try to avoid in previous film studios. That doesn't sound right. Where did I put it though? But my light system, that's what I'm looking for right now. I'm not sure where I put some lights. Just because of the new location, I haven't been able to rig up the lights exactly the way I want. So, shadows it is. We're mostly relying on natural light from a window over there and an overhead light. And I'm trying to get something worked out over here. We'll see what happens. Anyways, that's not important. What is important is this knife here, the Kizer Genie. Let's go ahead and get into this guy with our blade length measurement, sharpened edge, coming in here about 3 1/4 inches. If we go back to the scales, we're actually about 3 1/2 inches on the blade. So definitely a full-size knife, but as you can tell, pretty slender and sleek. Let's go ahead and bring our size comparisons out. There's a Rat Model 1, and here's the Rat Model 2. Very, very in-betweeny size knife, which I've said this before, but a lot of knives fall into that range between the Rat 1 and 2. The 2 is very small, and the 1 is actually a pretty large knife. It'd be cool if they had one that's in between. Here, let's bring out our Civivis, the Elementum. And here is the Praxis. Why did I want to call this the Scepter? That's a Syncut model. There they are. Let's go ahead and bring out our USA comparisons. First up, we got Benchmade Bug Out. And here is the PM2. Very, very good. And to close off these reviews, let's go ahead and compare it against some similar knives. I recently reviewed the CRKT Facet. So we'll put it there. Very, very similar knives. Similar blade shape, similar kind of profile, similar market, perhaps. Let's bring out the CJRB Warney Pyrite. There we go. Oh, and actually, since I have it here on the table, let's bring out the CRKT CEO. Another kind of gents-styled knife, which is definitely what I think. That's the genre of the Genie. Okay, specs. There's a bunch of different versions of this knife. The particular one that I have here features red Richlight micarta scales. Richlight, it's a paper product. I call it paper micarta. That might not be 100% accurate, but that's what I'm going to be calling it. We have a blade here that is coated 154 cm Spay blade, not reverse Tonto. Steel liner lock with a steel pocket clip. Let's go ahead and go do some cutting. You guys ready to do some review cutting? I am. Today, and I think the birds are too. Today we are talking about the Kizer Genie, which you already know because at this point you're like 3 or 4 minutes into the video. I don't know why I do that. It's because I film the review cutting before I do the review. And so this is the first video that I'm filming for YouTube of this knife, not counting shorts and, things like that. And so for me, I'm like, hey guys, here's the knife we're talking about today. When, I got to think, hey, here in a couple of weeks, I'm going to film the review and I'm going to say all that stuff then. So I don't have to say it now. But sometimes I do anyways. Okay, so Kizer Genie, woohoo! Very interesting knife, kind of a gents carry or CEO style knife. I think CEO is a better term than gents carry, maybe. I don't know. But, yeah, I actually just finished doing the review cutting for the CRKT Facet, which is a knife I'd had for a long time. I've had this knife at this point for 2 weeks. But yeah, I'm not only ready to do the review cutting, I actually think I'm ready for the review. So I will maybe film this. Let's see, today's Sunday. I'll probably film this a week from today. which matters not at all to you guys. I'm just yammering. Anyways, let's talk about the action. Got him. If you watch the facet video, you know that flies have been bothering me all day. Okay, so, oh gosh. You know what, we're not restarting. I know I'm just kind of rambling and going off the rails, but we're going to leave it in because why not, right? Why not? Okay, so the action. This is running on ball bearings, of course, and it does have Kizer's, at this point, signature, smooth, buttery, goody action. We have two means of deployment, a front flipper and a blade hole. My favorite way to open this knife is the thumb flick. I think that works very, very well. This hole catches my thumb amazingly. We have all this access on this side, so my thumb goes in there and just, ooh, very, very satisfying thumb flick. The reverse flick, I have a little less access, but it's also good. The detent on this knife is pretty, is a little bit on the stronger side. I know when I unboxed it, if you've seen the unboxing video, the detent right out of the box was incredibly strong. After fiddling with this knife a little bit and adjusting things, the detent is not as strong, so I can do the front flipper now, but it is still maybe a little stronger than I would want. But just a hair. Again, that thumb flick, that's perfect. That is perfect. The reverse flick, I might want to be a little bit lighter just because I can't get in there as well. And the front flipper, I would definitely want to be a little bit lighter. Speaking of front flipper, I'm not a front flipper guy, and this one here is not great. The jimping, at least for me, other people are great at front flippers, right? If you're a front flipper fanatic, you might like this, but I am not. You can do the reach around and things like that. You know, you can do the over the top. In fact, that's my favorite way to front flip this, is with the finger going whoop. But the light, I don't know, the thumb method, it just doesn't, they didn't jimp the flipper tab all the way over. We'll show that at the table again. And it's kind of just a little stub there, but you can do it. And if you're, again, if you're a if you like using this mechanism here to open your knife, you'll probably enjoy this quite a bit. As far as the closing goes, for such a light blade, this is very impressive. Very impressive action indeed. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the ergonomics. Very neutral, as you can see here, and they're okay, right? This knife is actually decently thick. The scales are nice and hand-filling. I do feel that clip quite a bit, but that's kind of to be expected, right? It's a deep carry clip, and yeah, I do feel it quite a bit. You can choke up into this spot here, which is actually a little more comfortable for me. And yeah, it works really great. The ergonomics do kind of complement this blade really well. You can pinch grip up in the hole. So yeah, the ergonomics are fine. They're not like hand melting, but a knife like this is not supposed to be hand melting. For what this knife is, the ergonomics are very good, right? They're very, very good. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the carry. This knife is very light. Very light. It has a single-sided pocket clip. Wah, wah, wah. Come on, guys. The clip does have flat screws, but it is not recessed to the scale. I kind of wish it was. If you're not going to make it reversible, at least, you know, sink it into the scale on the other side. It's Kizer's kind of standard clip, and it actually works very, very well. Move that pin out of the way. There it is. 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 The clip slides nicely on the Richlight handles. Yeah, it works. This is also a great knife to keep in your shirt pocket. I made a short about that because old Tonto Guy mentioned that he has one of these that he carries like that. Shout out to old Tonto Guy. I know you're watching. How you doing? But yeah, here's some close-ups of this knife. I do like the colorway, this black with red. It is very interesting. This whole knife isn't really my style, but I do appreciate the aesthetic that it was going for. Okay, let's go ahead and get our cutting done, shall we? Oh, 154 cm Spey blade. I know, reverse Tonto guy, you think this is or old Tonto guy, you think this is a reverse Tonto. I don't hold that against you, I promise. But yeah, 154 cm, great steel. This is decently thin behind the edge, not like super thin. You can see here at the tip, we're a little bit wedgy, but it is thin enough, I would say. And as you can see here, it slices just fine. And you can get to that tip and do utility cuts. So, yeah, overall, it's a pretty versatile blade. Most of these gents carry CEO-style knives. What are you going to be using this for? Maybe fine tasks, things like that, cutting strings. Primarily quick one-cut jobs, and it's back in your pocket, right? And this will excel at all that type of stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and get our rope out here. Where is the end? There it is. Very, very nice. Very nice. Okay. 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 Honestly, that's about what I was expecting, right? It is a fairly light blade. In fact, it's a pretty light blade. It's a pretty light knife overall. It doesn't have a whole lot of mass crunching down that rope. And again, the edge is relatively thin. Okay, let's go ahead and cut a pool noodle. You guys, if you saw the CRKT Facet video, just go watch it. I've referenced it so many times in this video already. Just go watch it. Do yourself a favor. It's a good video, I think. Obviously, at this point, I haven't finished it. But anyways, I gave a spiel about this pool noodle. Okay, that was kind of a wonky cut. That might have been my fault. Let's go again. Okay, yeah, it felt pretty good. It felt decent. Yeah, I can tell right away here at the tip. I didn't really notice this before, but see how wonky that sharpening is? Let's see if I can focus on that real good. I don't know, but we get kind of wavy up here, get a little bit thick down there, and I actually did feel that in the cut, but it did very well. It sliced all right. We were able to go pretty darn thin with that. And yeah, again, not a huge blade, so it was pretty quick before we were getting up on that flat. But the performance on this guy is 100% acceptable, in my opinion. Ooh, we're catching some of that evening sun now. Looks real smexy. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get back to the table. Let's go ahead and get back to the table. Let's go ahead and get back to the table. Good enough. Alrighty, guys. We are back. Let's go ahead and talk about what I'm liking about this knife. First of all, I do think it's a good-looking knife. This is not necessarily my style. It's, I don't typically go for sleek, I guess not, but I don't typically go for narrow knives like this. But this one looks very good. The handle and the blade complement each other nicely. And this particular version here with the red rich light and this black blade gives it a very interesting aesthetic. It's definitely a gents folder, but this one's kind of aggressive. It's a little meaner than some that you might see, and I appreciate that. I think that looks very, very cool. The design is definitely well thought out. Speaking of design, GE, is that the design? I never looked this up. Excuse me while I look that up. I should have done this before I sat down. Okay, yeah. So this knife is designed by Gage. I think I've reviewed stuff by Gage before. I don't remember seeing the GE marking there. Focus up, camera. But maybe that's his thing. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, designed by Gage. He did a great job. Very, very cool design. Alrighty, let's go ahead and talk about some other things. This is a very lightweight knife. If you're all about that lightweight lifestyle, this is a good one for you. Very compact knife, very lightweight. It carries very, very well. As you guys probably saw in one of the shorts I did, I was carrying this in a shirt pocket for a while. Got that idea from Old Tonto Guy. Thank you. And yeah, carried great. Super lightweight knife. Like this Richlight is very, very light, and the internal pocketing on the scales. Where's my flashlight? Oh shoot, I don't have it with me right now. But the internal pocketing on the scales, hopefully you guys can see that, is quite extensive. So yeah, you have a very lightweight knife. Also with the carry, the pocket clip is very nice. This is the pocket clip that Kizer uses on basically everything, I think. And it's a good clip. I don't really have a whole lot of complaints with it. It's a good clip. Next up, the ergonomics are actually pretty nice for this style of knife. CEO knives don't always have the greatest ergos. You know, when you prioritize, you know, sleekness, you can sometimes lose quite a few points in the ergonomics department. But this one is very good. You can choke up into this little flat spot here, get right behind the edge without endangering yourself. But back here is good. I do feel the clip, but it's a deep carry clip on a narrow handle. The scales themselves are fairly thick. Let's compare that against the facet here. We can see that this is a fairly thick knife, but that really does help it fill out the hand. So I'm not mad. I like thick knives, and I cannot lie. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about the action. It's really, really good. The detent did take a little bit to break in, as if you guys remember from the unboxing, but once it did, yeah, that thumb flick is amazing. Very smooth on the close. The reverse flick is a little tight because obviously you have this big cutout here on this side, and you don't have as much of a cutout on this side, but, whoops, you can get in there and reverse flick it very, very satisfyingly. It also has a front flipper, which we'll talk about later, but, you know, if you really like front flippers, this one will be right up your alley. I think you'll absolutely love it. So, yeah, the action is great. My favorite way to deploy it is that thumb flick. Oh, man, that is super satisfying. This is one of the best thumb flickers I've tried in a long time. That just, the hole just lines up with my thumb perfectly. I get so much buildup, and it just, oh, man, yeah, the detent really, really kicks it out. Very, very nice. And then, of course, very smooth on the close. Kizer's been killing it with their actions lately. They've really cracked the code. They've found the secret formula. They've found the recipe to the Krabby Patties. I don't know what it is, but they have really, really been making excellent actions. Part of it probably has to do with the little cutout they do back here on the blade, but did they do it on this one? Yeah, they did it on this one too. Or actually, is that where the stock thing goes? No, it is the cutout. Yeah, they do a little like weight relieving cutout on the back of the blade so that it puts the weight more forward and makes it more drop shutty. I like the materials too. This Richlight, this is the first time I've tried out Richlight. I'm a big fan of it, honestly. It gives you kind of... The saturation of colors is a little greater than you get with most micartas. A lot of micartas, especially that are commercially available from China, don't necessarily have the most vibrant colors, right? And so this stuff, it kind of has a micarta feel, although it is smoother. So if you like smoother stuff, this will be for you. But it does kind of have that warmth in hand feeling. But it also gives you this really, really deep maroon color that I think is absolutely gorgeous. 154 cm, no problems there whatsoever. Let's go ahead and talk about the blade. This is a fine blade. This is a good blade. For basic EDC tasks, this is really all you need. You've got plenty of edge. You've got a nice tip here. You can dig into things. You can get into blister packs. That edge is also dropped down low enough that you can do some utility cuts. Thinness behind the edge is not bad, right? It's a full flat grind pretty much. Of course, it's not the thinnest thing behind the edge because this blade is, you know, there's not a whole lot of room for that grind to get down. It's not a full flat grind. There's a little bit of a flat up here, but It's very, very close. I think this is the type of blade shape that is excellent for just mundane EDC tasks. Are you going to want to sit down and break down miles and miles of cardboard with this? No, you're not. But, I mean, is that really what you're going to be doing in this style of knife anyways? I don't think so. And the last thing we're going to touch on is access to the lock bar. Excellent. They did it perfectly. You can get in there really, really nicely. No problems at all. Very, very good. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about some negatives. The first negative thing is no matter how many times I rubbed this knife, I would never summon a genie. I know it's a shame, but look. If you don't believe me, I'll show you. That felt really, really dirty. I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, no genie. And upon further inspection, I realized that this is not named after the Arabic or Islamic mythological deity that is a wish-granting genie. This is actually the German word for genius. One of my younger brothers is actually learning German, and he told me the pronunciation is Genie. Genie? Something, I don't know. I can't remember how it was. But yeah, that's what this knife is named after. Genius. So, you know, it's a good thing I picked this up, you know, being a genius myself. If you guys have watched this channel for a while, you know that that is not true. But, yeah. Okay, moving on to some real complaints. My first one has to do with the front flipper. Look at this. So they have very fine, great texture jimping right there, but what does that do? That jimping does nothing. You need to keep that jimping coming all the way over the top. As a result, this is not the easiest front flipper for me. Obviously, I've been carrying it for a while. I've gotten used to it. I've adjusted to it, but for a first-time front flipper, if this is someone's first front flipper, this may not be ideal to them. I'm glad it has the blade hole because I'm a big fan of front flippers that have other deployment options. I do not like front flippers only. And when I'm carrying a front flipper, I always use a secondary means of deployment. With this knife, I always use the thumb flick when I want to get this out into action. If I'm sitting and fidgeting, I'll do the front flipper, you know, get all the good little tricks in there and stuff. But for actual utility, actually pulling it out of my pocket and getting it ready to use, I always use a secondary deployment method. This front flipper could have been a lot better. It's not bad, right? It's not bad. Obviously, I've adjusted to it, but there for a while, I really, really struggled with this front flipper. It was uncomfortable and awkward and just not very nice. So, yeah, they could have done that a little bit better. The next thing is the action on this was a little bit weird. Honestly, I think the detent is a little too strong for the front flipper, just a hair. They do have the action dialed fairly well, but you know, for the front flipper is just a smidge strong, I feel. You know, it does bite into your thumb quite a bit when you try and do it. When I first unboxed this knife, there was, I don't know, the detent was super strong. I think, you know, sometimes when you have a coated blade, the detent gets like stuck in there and it has to wear in a track and, you know, anyways. But yeah, it was not very fun to work with until it broke in. Again, you know, it's a break-in issue. You know, it's not a forever issue. Next thing, I do wish the reverse flick was a little easier. If you're left-handed and you want to use this, the thumb flick is a little bit difficult to get to, but the reverse flick, not left-handed, guys, remember. The reverse flick, you got much more access, and yeah. Speaking of being left-handed, the clip is not reversible. I think that's a shame. I get it. You know, it's a classy knife. You don't want to mess up this side. You know, they've kept the hardware minimal. You know, they've got these nice lines milled in here. But come on, guys. Come on. Another thing, speaking of the scales, this isn't really a complaint. This is just something I found a little bit weird. Look at this. And this is completely a design choice, but, you know, the scale, like, raises up here a little bit. And, like, it's not enough. I don't know. It's just, to me, it's just, it doesn't bother you in hand or anything. It's just, to me, it's just weird that they did that. Yeah, just a little rant. Let's get some up close look at this guy. What else? When I got this knife out of the package, it was kind of in a state of disarray. The centering was off. There was tons and tons of blade play. And of course, just a couple of adjustments fixed all that. But this is kind of an expensive budget knife. It's like $75. So I really would like it to be nice out of the box. Again, not huge. I was able to fix it pretty easily. Really, that's all I have for negatives. The clip is not reversible. The front flipper could have been done a lot better. And, those are basically the biggest complaints. This thing's just a little nitpick of mine. So let's go ahead and get into my final conclusions. Final conclusions, this is not a knife for me. Just aesthetically, there's a lot of things about this knife that I don't really like, but they're not complaints. They're personal preferences. This is not my style of knife. But if this is your style of knife, should you get it? I got this knife on sale for $35 or something. At that price, this is an amazing knife. This is a complete steal. I love that. Usually these go for like $75. Do I think it's worth it? I don't know. Again, I think it comes down to you. For me, the lightweight nature of it and stuff, I don't know. Again, this is not my style of knife. If it is your style of knife, though, it might be worth that. So, does it get a recommendation from me? Yeah, I suppose. It's a fine knife, right? It's a fine knife. I do think it looks really, really cool. If you're attracted to it and you pick one up, I do think you will enjoy it if this is your style. If not, you might as well, pass on it. There's nothing. This isn't a knife that I think anyone absolutely needs to add to their collection. It's just a very cool entering into the CEO style of knives. So, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, leave it a like, comment below, and subscribe. I've been Gideon, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.